Hello, welcome to this conversation today. Today, I want to talk about something that I don't know. Some people talk about a lot, and some people have a hesitation talking about it. Have you heard of the conscious unified field? Like, what is that? Right? Conscious, meaning it has awareness. Unified, meaning it's all connected. Think of David Hawkins' power versus force or letting go. You know, the non-duality, the principle that we're all connected in this way and part of a unified field. Field is a mathematical or an electromagnetic or quantum physics sort of description of an active, vibrating or connected piece. And, you know, it's weird. We used to think the vacuum of space was empty, and it's not. It's teeming with particles and antiparticles that pop in and out of existence, and Heisenberg uncertainty principles, and excuse me, particles and antiparticles, and all that kind of stuff. And probably 100 other things that we haven't figured out how to name them yet, or haven't discovered them. And when we go below atoms and electrons and neutrons and protons and down to quarks and below that, you know, vibrating strings in the field. So when you think of conscious unified field, you think of a somehow conscious unified collection of energy. And hence we all say everything's energy. So let's get past all the squiggly weird stuff and let's give it a name. An intelligent design force. We summarize that in the simple three-letter word of God. You know, people often hesitate to say that word because it has been so polarizing. Because along with it often comes the idea and baggage that if you use the word God, it's got to be somebody's God. You know, this religion or that, you know, system, or the Hindu multiple gods and goddesses, or Christian God or Allah, or, you know, it's got to have a name, and therefore it inherits all this baggage. Now, regardless of what your personal experience and belief is about that, I just want to talk about this conscious unified field, and let's just call it the field for a minute. Or let's just call it God. I use the word God. But when I talk to you about it, I have my own experience with that and my own certainty and knowledge, but I'm not trying to convince anybody else of my view of that. What I do encourage is for you to intentionally seek and form your own, whatever that looks like, right? Because forming your own is the only way to have your own certainty about what that looks like, your own knowledge, your own clarity for you about what that looks like. So, all right. So let's call it God, and you can call it Conscious Unified Field or CUF or the non-duality or whatever you want. But here's what I want to talk about. I wanted to get that out of the way because I didn't want to have that language thing get in the way of the discussion that I think is really important. If the field is conscious, or God is conscious and knows things, then what does it know? What does God know? It knows where everybody is. It knows where all the creations are. It knows all of the laws and principles necessary to create, to cause planets and solar systems and universes to come into existence. Okay, how about the minor details like, you know, the grass in the field down the street, or the fact that, you know, I'm going bald, or the fact that you do or don't like spaghetti. Like, to what level does that knowledge extend? So I'm not going to have a long convo about that. But I am going to say from my own experience, and offer this to you as a possibility, that God knows your name. Now, I want you to let that sit for a minute. If God knows my name or your name, then it makes sense that God knows everything about me. Maybe, and my experience is this is true, he knows everything that I'm thinking or feeling. Now, that makes sense in the all-connected sense because if you hurt someone else, you hurt yourself. If you help someone else, you help yourself. That's the idea, one of the ideas of non-duality and our connectedness. Our connectedness in love is strength. So let's go down the road and see where this goes. If God knows your name, and that means then the universe, some people call it the universe, is not this machine grinding through a series of meaningless events. Beneath the circumstance is a personal, purposeful, and benevolent intelligence that knows who we are and what we are invited to become. And to me, that is such a mind-expanding, mind-blowing thing. Because if God knows your intelligence and mine and knows what your capabilities are and mine, knows what we're invited to become, then that means I'm not an anonymous object floating around the edge of one of the spiral galaxies, of which there are zillions. And that, you can get caught up in the idea that it's impossible for somebody, an intelligence to keep track of all these zillions of people and all their thoughts, feelings, and plus all the grass and the plants and flowers, not only on this world, but other places. Let's just set that limitation aside for a minute and consider what it would mean if you and I are not anonymous nothingnesses, and you and I actually have a purpose, a real life, important, meaningful purpose. Now, I'm not suggesting that the divine God can not do his work without me, that I play an indispensable role. But I know from my own experience that we play an important role. And even though God can do all of his work without me or you, what I've experienced is that he'd rather do it with us and make something out of us. In other words, take those gifts and talents that we have and turn them into something. So if you and I are known and we are called and entrusted with agency, that's a staggering thought by itself. But what I also know from my own experience is that the design and building and living of that path are up to me, because it seems like there's absolute consciousness. We're aware of things. We can discover things and learn things. We're blessed with that ability. And there is also a second part, which is intention. We have the ability to think about things, past and future, and form intentions about what we want to do, where we want to go, be, and all that stuff. And we have this agency or right to choose. And those things seem to be inviolable. Consciousness, intention, and agency. They spell the CIA, oh dear, if you're in the U.S. I live in Canada. But anyway, yesterday I spent several hours having a piece of my ear cut away because of skin cancer. Now, it's not exactly my favorite way to spend the afternoon, and this bandage is not a fashion statement that I had, to use to introduce the session. The medical procedures sometimes involve an interesting ritual. They ask your name. They did. They asked my birth date. Why? Because they want to make sure I'm the right person. What are we doing today? They want to make sure that I get it. They know perfectly well who I am, my birth date, because they're verifying it on a piece of paper. And they absolutely know why I'm there, because all that's there, but the specificity matters. So they're not performing surgery on some dude in the general vicinity. They're treating one particular person with one particular problem, with one particular history, and one particular need that I need that day. So it made me think about this truth. God knows your name, or the field, or the universe, knows your name, my name. God doesn't know humanity as a category. We're not unit number 8,297,000,000, right? We're not waiting in the cosmic customer service line. Without, you're a known individual. Your gifts are individual, your wounds are individual, your temperament, your voice, your experience, your genius, your opportunities, promises, fears, and your assignment are individual. So the cool thing is that, we can argue about that forever. But the truth is, at least in my experience, and story, I died and had conversations with the divine and all the rest. The question is whether or not we're willing to use our agency to answer when we're called. So a lot of modern language treats the universe like it's an enormous machine grinding mindlessly through space and matter and time. Stars explode, planets form, organisms appear, people live and die, and the gears just keep turning without meaning or direction or interest. In that view, consciousness is a chemical accident, and that briefly became aware of the machinery before being fed back into it. I did not and have not experienced that. Love is not a biochemical prank. Agency is not an evolutionary clerical error. Your personal ache to create and to serve and to forgive and to love and to contribute is not merely electricity twitching inside a temporary skin bag. It isn't. Beneath everything is intelligence. Not merely processing power, but intelligence that's got intention and direction and love. The field is not merely alive, it's personal. Now, obviously, I have to always add this caveat. Doesn't mean every inconvenience is a coded telegram from heaven. Something doesn't go my way, and so I'm saying, okay, God's pissed off at me today because I missed a flight or because I'm late, or, sometimes the printer's broken because printers are vindictive little machines created to test whether spiritual maturity survives the toner replacement process, right? We don't need to turn every traffic light into a prophecy. Beneath these ordinary circumstances is a larger reality. You're not an accident, and your becoming is not irrelevant. So now there's several ways we can go with this, and let's go down one of them, and that is this. We are known, but that doesn't mean we are flattered, right? We also know from almost all sacred literature that, God is no respecter of persons. So being known doesn't mean we're endlessly flattered. It's not a 24-hour, compliment service or room service or a cosmic vending machine. And it doesn't mean everything we do is perfect. And, please continue avoiding your assignment. That's not love. That is enabling with harp music or something, right? To be known is to be seen accurately. Wow. Your worth is seen. Your divinity is seen. Your possibility is seen. And our excuses are also seen, right? Your gifts are seen, including the ones maybe we keep pretending aren't gifts because using these might produce visibility. Our fear is seen, including the part where we have renamed it discernment, timing, modesty, or just being realistic. God knows your name, and it knows the difference between rest and hiding. It knows the difference between patience and postponement, the difference between humility and self-erasure, the difference between being genuinely unprepared and spending 12 years getting ready to begin preparing, right? That level of being known is comforting and inconvenient. And inconvenient just means we can't hide. The invitation to live life to the fullest is individual. And that matters because your ultimate life is not my ultimate life. Your calling isn't a photocopy of somebody else's. That saying, be yourself because everybody else is already taken. Your architecture won't look exactly like the person you follow online, or the coach you admire, or the author you read, or the entrepreneur whose advertisement has chased you across the internet with the persistence of a mosquito. You have particular materials. Your life has given you skills, gifts, and experience, scars, relationships, insights, losses, victories, and ways of seeing that nobody else has. Those ways together configure a pattern and process that has never existed before. That's not ego, that's just stewardship. A violin is not arrogant because it doesn't sound like a trumpet. A rose isn't suffering because it refuses to become a potato. Every person has the measure of their creation. Everything fills that measure by becoming fully what we all were intended to be. And that's true for me and you. So God knows our name, and the invitation is specific. And it's not just to do good in some vague, sort of resale beige, spiritually acceptable way. It's a calling toward the full design of your life. And this is where the work of the sovereign architect begins. You design first. Not every circumstance, not every outcome, not every person's choice. You design your inner architecture. You choose the identity with which you walk through the world, the identity that you choose to practice, and the values you embody and espouse and defend, the state of being that you will cultivate, the promises that you make or that I make, and the principles that govern your life. I choose that too. And that's been one of the most effective and powerful things that I do. And I didn't know it before. Every single day I rehearse the values and principles that govern my life this day, today, right here, right now. Most people do not design deliberately. They just inherit stuff. They inherit maybe fear or money stories or relationship patterns or beliefs about worth, ideas about success or definitions of safety, rules about what people are, which people like them and what you're allowed to become. Then they live inside that inherited architecture and assume that it's reality, and it's not. It's a design somebody handed you, and it's our choice whether to live in or out of that box. God knows your name and continually invites you and me to look at the blueprint and say, is this mine? Does this reflect truth? Does this equal the principles and experiences that I have? Does this being that I am I creating love, freedom, excellence, service, and joy? Or are you living in a structure built out of old panic, family expectations, wonder why all the rooms are dark? Wow. Design means choosing who you are before circumstance chooses it for you. The next piece is building. Okay, design like an architect, and then you build. Vision without building is interior decoration for the imagination, right? It may be gorgeous up there, but nobody can live in it. Building means commitments. It means plans. It means conversations and pages and offers and practices and products and services if you have your own business, or showing up powerfully wherever you choose to work. It might mean repairs and repetitions and practice and decisions and work. It means taking the unseen thing and giving it into a form. God may know your name and does, but God doesn't appear interested in doing your push-ups. And my experience, God can't do my push-ups. I want you to think about that for a minute. I can look at a YouTube video of a guy doing 100 push-ups all day long, and my arms don't grow a tiny bit, not even a millimeter. Right? So nobody can do anyone else's push-ups. The divine gives us guidance, opportunity, power, grace, people, ideas, relationships, and timing. Wonderful. But I still got to take up the hammer if I'm going to build something. This is where people get disappointed with spirituality. They want a divine purpose to somehow eliminate the construction. Instead, divine purpose is what makes our construction meaningful, right? We're not building alone, but you are building. Grace is not a replacement for participation. Guidance is not a substitute for movement, and inspiration isn't the finished house. God knows your name, and the lumber still needs cutting. So after design and build, the next piece is to live. It sounds obvious, but a lot of people spend their lives designing and building something they never allow themselves to truly inhabit. They keep preparing to be present. I want you to think about that. Sacrificing the current day for some future day when they'll finally deserve to breathe. Your ultimate life is not a prize waiting for the end of a flawless performance. I want you to hear this. Your ultimate life is the way you choose to inhabit the life you're building now. You can enjoy it and build it at the same time. You can live every minute of every day. I got a friend that says it's the best damn day of his life every day. I know it, I love it, I believe it, and I live in that place too. To live your ultimate life means living awake, conscious, loving deliberately, creating boldly, serving fiercely, forgiving quickly, resting honestly, and refusing to keep your aliveness in storage. It means getting up off your face however many times. It doesn't mean the day's painless. Yesterday involved surgery. Today involves a bandage and pain and changed plans and a body asking me to cooperate. Apparently, my ultimate life includes wound care instructions. Fine. I look forward to it. Ultimate life is not a life without interruption, or it's not a life in which interruption does not. I'm sorry, it is. I said it's not. It is a life in which those interruptions do not steal my identity, my purpose, my ownership, or my love. Now, I've said all the way through that the field, or God knows our names, but it calls through many voices, right? Sometimes it comes through a spiritual impression, the spirit. It may come through a book you read or a conversation you had. I was just on a call with some people, a bunch of people that are fabulous, a marvelous group I belong to. And I was able to have some breakout rooms, and I met some amazing people in those breakout rooms. And some of them, spark further conversation to see what we can create. So belonging to that is amazing. And the spirit or the inspiration or the invitations might come through a diagnosis or a failure or a child, a song, a client, a dream, a loss, or the annoying persistence of some idea that just isn't going to leave you alone. Sometimes the calling calls your name through encouragement, and other times it's through discomfort. Sometimes the path is not proof that you are lost, or sometimes it is proof that you are lost. Sometimes it might be the friction between the structure of the life you're living in right now and the life you're meant to design. Sometimes the call is simple and it sounds like this: begin, stop, forgive, tell the truth, build the thing, rest before you turn your calling into a medical emergency. I have a phrase that I hear often from Spirit when I'm doing my deep meditation and preparation in the morning. 3 steps: do what's in front of you, keep going, have fun. And I sometimes say, is that it? Do what's in front of you, keep going, have fun. Now, I've structured my life so what's in front of me is always one of those things in my calling. But it's funny that that's the words. Now, I want to remind us both, the field is personal, but that doesn't always mean dramatic. Often it's just quiet. The next thing is embarrassingly simple. Make the call, keep the appointment, write the page, open the document, take the medicine, have the conversation, ask for help, turn off the phone, show up, do what's in front of you, keep going, have fun. You are not anonymous to your own life. You're literally the architect. One of the tragedies of learned helplessness is people become anonymous inside their own lives. They speak about themselves as though they are the weather. Here's some examples. Well, that's just how things are. Oh, this always happens. I guess we'll see. I don't really know what I want. I'm just getting by. That's not real. That's learned because your name is actually in the blueprint. Here's what I want to close with. You're not a spectator wandering through somebody else's construction. You're the architect. And if you find yourself feeling like a spectator, it's time to check the blueprint. Now, that doesn't mean we control everything, of course, but stop abandoning the control that you do have. Choose your state. Choose your interpretation. Choose carefully the next right action. Choose whether pain becomes poison or wisdom. Choose whether history, your history, becomes a prison or building material. It's easy to say that and hard to do, but it's real. You can choose whether your gift remains admired or becomes useful. The field, or God knows your name. Do you? There is can be immense comfort in knowing that you are known, but there's also a big responsibility. If I'm unknown, then I claim invisibility, but if I know that I am known, I can't claim invisibility. If I'm gifted, I can't pretend I got nothing to offer. I hear that. Oh, well, I haven't got anything special. You do. You are invited, so you can't spend the rest of your life waiting for a bigger engraved invite. You are loved, so you don't need to build a life around proving your worth. You have agency, so you can't continue telling myself your choices don't matter. You're beautiful. You're capable. Now, being known, of course, doesn't mean we're special. It just makes us responsible in the most sacred way. So you have a life nobody else can live. You have a voice no one else can imitate. Nobody else can do exactly what you do. You can create, you can love, you can offer and serve in a way that no one else can. And that is not designed to be pressure. It's a privilege. So the question is, if this is true, and it is, because I know that from my own personal experience, where is the field or God or the divine calling your name? What keeps returning for you? What truth have you already heard that maybe you're ignoring? What design are you being invited to build? What are you being prompted to build or do? Where are you being invited instead of to actually go do now instead of get ready? Where am I demanding a louder call instead of ignoring the ones I've got? And maybe the sharpest question of all of them is, what would I do deliberately different today if you knew right to the core of your being that your life was known, purposeful, and individually entrusted to you? You individually. My own experience teaches me that this is true. You're not anonymous matter living through this indifference. You're real, you're known, you're powerful, you're loved, and you're capable. So build deliberately. Design absolutely on purpose and live fully. And I got that backwards because design is first. But you design your ultimate life and then build it and then live it. So if God knows your name, when he calls, let's answer. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow.